They called me in just after dawn. Fog still blanketed the hills, thick like spilled milk, and the sun hadn't made up its mind about rising. My boots sank into the wet earth as I stepped past the yellow tape, camera strapped around my neck like a noose. The forest was too quiet. Even the birds kept their distance. Detective Ramos nodded at me from beside a tree that looked more like a corpse, its bark scorched black, its branches curled like broken fingers. "She's over there," he said, pointing with a gloved hand. "You're not gonna like it." I never like it, but I don't flinch anymore. The girl was maybe 17. Pale. Eyes still open. Mouth locked mid-scream. Her body was twisted, not broken, but arranged, placed in a circle made of red powder and bone fragments. Someone had tucked a violet flower into her hand. I lifted my camera. Click. 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 Each photo felt like theft. A symbol was drawn above her head, etched into the dirt with precision. 3 interlocking rings around a sharp, downward triangle. My heart stumbled in my chest. I had seen that shape before. 12 years ago. Carved into the trees the night my twin brother disappeared. I took another photo, slower this time. The girl's skin was marked, lines burned into her arms and collarbone. Not cuts. Not scratches. Words, maybe. Letters I didn't understand. My lens zoomed in automatically. That's when I saw it. Inside the markings, deep and almost invisible, something pulsed. I lowered the camera. That couldn't be right. "Is she breathing?" I asked. No, Ramos stood next to me, arms folded. "Dead for hours. Maybe a day." "Then what's that under her skin?" He squinted. "You're seeing things." I wasn't. And that was the problem. Behind me, the trees groaned like they didn't want us there. I turned slowly, scanning the trunks. More symbols. Faint. Drawn in ash. The circle where she lay wasn't the only one. There were at least 5 others, all half erased by wind or time. Something about it felt rehearsed. Like whoever did this had done it before. Back at the edge of the site, I spotted a priest. Young. Nervous. Clutching a silver cross like it would answer his questions. They always send one when the murders feel unclean. He wouldn't come near the body. Just stood there mumbling to himself. I took one last photo of the girl's face. Her eyes seemed to follow me as I moved. That was the first time I felt it, the tug. It was small at first. A whisper behind my ribs. Something calling, deep in the forest. Like someone tugging on a thread tied to my heart. I shook it off. Told myself I was tired. Told myself the fog was playing tricks. But something inside me had shifted. It wasn't fear. I've lived with fear. This was different. It was familiar. And for the first time in a long time, I thought about my brother. About the last dream I had before he vanished. Him standing in the woods, mouth stitched shut, eyes black, whispering my name through the trees. "Silva, come back. You left me." That dream was 12 years old. But now, it didn't feel like a memory. It felt like a warning. I packed my gear, but my hands were shaking. When I looked down at the final shot I'd taken, the girl's eyes were no longer open. In the photo, they were closed. And I swear I hadn't blinked. I don't know what led me back to the seminary ruins. Maybe it was the sigil. Maybe it was how the girl's body was found, her arms bent inward, her eyes wide open, as if she had seen something beyond this world. Or maybe it was something I wasn't ready to admit out loud. A feeling deep in my gut. A quiet pull that started the moment I stepped into that clearing. I parked the car at the edge of the forest, just before dusk. The trees loomed like silent watchers, their crooked limbs black against the fading sky. The town always warned people not to enter the woods after dark. But warnings have never worked on me. The ruins were colder than the forest. Charred stone walls still stood, jagged and broken, wrapped in thick moss. The smell of ash was faint, like it had soaked into the earth and never left. I stepped over collapsed beams and shattered glass, boots crunching on bones I told myself belonged to animals. I started with the chapel. The roof was gone. Moonlight poured in, casting a cold silver glow over the floor. It looked like a graveyard. Burned pews, a melted cross, and strange scratches on the walls. Not just fire damage. Symbols. Circles and lines, drawn in patterns that felt intentional. I lifted my camera, snapping shots one by one. That's what I do when things feel too heavy. I hide behind the lens. But tonight, it wasn't working. One of the floor tiles caught my eye. It was cracked, but the pieces looked arranged. Too neat. I knelt beside it and traced the edge with my glove. It wasn't just a crack. It was a seal, a hidden panel. I pried it open. A soft hiss escaped the earth, like a breath held too long. The opening led to a narrow stairway, swallowed in darkness. I clicked on my flashlight and descended. The air grew damp and metallic, thick with rot. The stairs ended in a small, stone room that had no right to exist. And in the center, on a pedestal made of bone and brick, was the heart. It wasn't metaphorical. It wasn't poetic. It was real. A human heart. Slightly too large. Still red. Still wet. Encased in thick glass, but beating. Slowly. Steady. Like it was waiting. I should have run. Instead, I stepped closer, drawn to it the way fire draws in cold hands. My flashlight flickered. The walls seemed to shift, carved with prayers that weren't in any language I knew. My breath hitched as I reached for the glass. The moment I touched it, a pulse ran through my fingers, warm and alive. My vision blurred. I saw flashes, a boy with no face, screaming silently. A man in a priest's robe, holding a blade over his chest. Fire. Eyes. The forest twisting like it was alive. Then it stopped. Silence returned. I stumbled back, panting. My hand was shaking, but I couldn't let go. I couldn't leave it. It felt like something ancient had just opened its eyes and found me staring back. I took the heart, wrapped it in my coat, cradled it like it was mine. As I climbed out of that chamber, I knew I was doing something wrong. Something deeply, unforgivably wrong. But I also knew I couldn't leave it down there. Not when it was still beating. Not when it had already started beating in time with my own. I didn't mean to fall asleep with it in the room. The heart sat in the center of my kitchen table, still locked inside the glass case I had found it in. I wrapped it in layers of police evidence bags and duct tape, but it didn't help. It still pulsed, slow, steady, like it was waiting for something. Every few minutes, I swore I could hear a soft thump, like a low drum beating underwater. I drank 2 cups of black coffee, then 3. Still, my eyes started to burn, and before I knew it, I was curled up on the couch. The glow from the refrigerator light lit up the kitchen, just enough for me to see the outline of the box. I meant to keep watching it, but sleep crept in anyway. I opened my eyes in a place I didn't recognize. There was no sky, just a ceiling of moving shadows above me, swirling like smoke. The air was thick, heavy. The ground beneath my feet felt soft, like wet moss, but when I looked down, it wasn't moss at all. It was black water, still and mirror-like, stretching out in all directions. I was barefoot. Somewhere ahead, I saw him. He didn't move. He just stood there, half shrouded in mist, tall and lean, dressed in what looked like scorched robes. His face was unclear at first, like fog on a mirror. But the longer I stared, the clearer it became. Eyes like burned glass. Skin pale but cracked, like dried clay. And a faint smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You brought me home," he said, voice like silk tearing slowly. I tried to speak, but no sound came out. He took a step forward, and with each step, the water around my feet began to ripple, then boil. "You touched what was mine," he whispered, now close enough for me to see the deep scar running across his chest. A straight line from shoulder to stomach, as if something had been carved out. "My heart remembers you." I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. The water climbed up to my knees now, though I hadn't taken a single step. It was rising fast. I tried to scream. Still nothing. He raised a finger and pointed to my chest. "You're not dreaming, Silva," he said softly. "You're remembering." Then he placed a hand on the side of my face. Cold. So cold I felt it burning through my skin. I woke up screaming. My lungs were gasping, my shirt soaked in sweat. The lamp beside the couch had fallen, shattered. My fingers were red, scratched. Had I clawed at myself in my sleep? I looked at the kitchen table. The heart was glowing. Not brightly. Just a faint red pulse through the glass. And it was beating faster. I backed away. The air around it felt warmer than before. I swear I heard a faint whisper, maybe my name, maybe not. The refrigerator light flickered. Then it went out. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Not even a blink. I sat across from it in silence, staring at the case. Somehow in that dream, or memory, I had felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not fear. Recognition. Like I had seen him before. Like he had always been waiting for me to find him. I stood outside the precinct's evidence room, holding the sealed box like it was ticking. My fingers twitched around the edges of the plastic container. Inside, the glass case still held the heart, red, dark, and impossibly alive. It hadn't stopped beating since I took it from the ruins. I could hear it. Not with my ears, but somewhere deeper. Like the sound of drums in a dream, echoing under my skin. I scanned my badge, and the lock beeped open. The heavy metal door creaked, the fluorescent light flickering as I stepped in. Shelves surrounded me, stacked with weapons, bloodied clothing, bags of drugs, even a doll once used in some cult case from 2 years ago. I knew every inch of this room. I had cataloged most of it myself. But now it felt off. The lights buzzed overhead, but it wasn't just electricity. There was a hum, low and constant, vibrating the walls. It seemed to get louder as I moved closer to the back, where the restricted shelf was. I set the box down and opened the laptop used to log evidence. It booted slowly. Too slowly. I tapped the keys, and the screen glitched. A smear of static crawled across it like a spider. What the hell? I muttered. I pressed the power button again, and the screen snapped black. No response. That's when I noticed the sound. It wasn't just a hum anymore. It was a heartbeat. Fast. Wet. Steady. I turned around. The heart in the glass was pulsing harder now. Not just a soft thud like before, but thump thump, thump thump, fast, almost frantic. The red tissue stretched with each beat, veins throbbing, almost glowing. Then the lights above me blinked. Once. Twice. And died. The room went dark. I froze. I reached for my flashlight, clicked it on. A weak beam lit the box. The glass was fogging up from the inside. I leaned in. There were smudges on the inner surface of the case. Like fingerprints. No. Like claw marks. Then I heard it. A whisper. Low. Wet. Close to my ear. Silva? I stumbled back, flashlight trembling in my hand. Who's there? I said aloud, but my voice didn't feel like my own. It sounded like it came from behind my teeth. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. I swung it around the room. Nothing. No one. Just rows of lifeless evidence. But when I turned back to the heart, a man stood behind the shelf. For a split second, the beam caught him. His face was pale and stretched. Eyes black. Lips sewn shut with wire. Then he was gone. I backed toward the door. My breath was shallow. I didn't even realize I was crying until a tear hit my hand. Suddenly, the door burst open. Rodrigo, one of the newer officers, stood there out of breath. I heard a noise. Are you okay? I tried to speak, but the words clung to my throat like glue. He stepped in, and his eyes caught the heart. What is that? He asked. Before I could stop him, he stepped too close. The hum spiked. Rodrigo collapsed. Just dropped. Like a puppet whose strings had been cut. I screamed and rushed to him. His eyes were open but rolling. His body convulsed. I grabbed his shoulders, shouting his name. Then, he let out a guttural, choking gasp. Not his voice. Give it back, he croaked, his face twisting unnaturally. It's not yours. I jerked away, heart hammering. His body went limp. His breathing returned. Lights snapped back on. Rodrigo blinked and sat up, dazed. What happened? He whispered. I didn't answer. I looked at the heart, still beating calmly inside the box, as if nothing had happened. I picked it up and carried it out of the room without saying a word. That night, I didn't log it. I didn't file a report. I placed it in my closet, locked the door, and sat on my bed in silence. But I could still hear it. Thump. Thump. And in the corner of the room, where the light didn't reach, a shadow moved. Smiling. Waiting. Dreaming. With me. I woke up drenched in sweat. My skin was clammy, and the air in my apartment felt thick, almost soupy. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding inside my ears, loud and erratic, like it wasn't mine. The heart was still there, sitting inside the glass jar on my kitchen counter. It pulsed softly, faintly glowing with every beat. It was beautiful in a disgusting way. Blackened veins twisted around it like thorns, and every time it moved, I could swear it breathed. I turned my back on it and shuffled to the bathroom. My face looked pale, my eyes sunken. Sleep had become a cruel joke. I splashed cold water over my cheeks and stared into the mirror, trying to feel human again. Then I saw it. My reflection blinked, but I didn't. I froze. My fingers tightened on the sink's edge, the porcelain biting into my palms. I leaned in, barely breathing. It did it again. I watched my reflection move, tilt its head just a little to the side, like a curious animal. Then it smiled. I didn't. I stumbled back, nearly slipping on the wet tile. My chest tightened, my breath shallow and sharp. The reflection stared back at me calmly. The smile was gone. My face looked normal again. My mind raced for a logical answer. Sleep deprivation, hallucination, nerves. I had seen worse on the job. Corpses with their jaws ripped open. Blood trails leading into the woods that ended in nothing. But this was different. This was me. And yet not me. I didn't dare go back to the mirror. I left the bathroom light on and sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the heart across the room. It looked quiet now, like it was pretending to be still. I picked up my phone and called Ramos, my partner at the station. "Silva," he answered, voice groggy. "It's 3 in the morning. You good?" I wanted to tell him everything, the dreams, the voice, the reflection. But all I said was, "Have you ever looked into a mirror and felt like someone else was looking back?" Silence on the line. "Are you all right?" he asked, suddenly awake. "I don't know," I said truthfully. "Can I ask you something weird?" "Sure." "That heart, the one we found in the woods. You saw it, right? When I brought it in." There was a pause. "You never brought in a heart, Silva." "What are you talking about?" My blood turned cold. "You said it was weird. That it made you feel sick. Don't you remember?" "I said that about the girl's body. You brought photos. That's all." I stared across the room. The jar was still there. Still pulsing. Still beating. "I have to go," I said and hung up. I got up slowly, walked toward the counter, and reached for the jar. My fingers trembled. As I touched the glass, a whisper curled through the room like smoke. "Silva." My name. Soft and warm, like it came from inside my own mouth, but I hadn't spoken. I turned. There was no one there. Just me. And the mirror behind me. And in the reflection, someone else was smiling again. I parked my car just outside the crumbling gates of what used to be St. Clara's convent. It stood on a hill overlooking the valley, quiet and tired like an old soul waiting for someone to remember it. Moss climbed the stone walls. The windows were mostly boarded up. One bell tower leaned just enough to make the whole place feel off balance. I wasn't sure why I came here. Maybe it was the way the dreams had changed lately, how Tiago's voice had stopped whispering and started speaking clearly, like he was standing right beside me. He had said a name last night, before I woke up choking on my own breath. Marcella. I'd heard it before, buried in one of the old police reports from the seminary fire. Sister Marcella. She was the only surviving nun from the night it all went up in flames. The church never allowed her to speak publicly. But I had connections. I pulled enough strings to find her here. The door creaked as I stepped inside. Dust floated like ash in the stale light. The hallway smelled like old books and dried roses, mixed with something more bitter, like burnt incense and medicine. I followed the sound of a chair scraping against tile. A figure moved slowly down the hall, hunched and thin, wrapped in gray cloth. "Silva Reyes," she said before I could introduce myself. "You've seen it, haven't you?" Her voice was dry but sharp. Her eyes, pale and foggy, still managed to hold something fierce. "Yes," I said. "The heart." She nodded once. "Then there's no time." We sat in a narrow room that might have been a library once, now filled with boxes of broken crucifixes and faded portraits of saints. A single candle flickered beside us. Sister Marcella placed a withered hand on the table. It trembled slightly. "I warned them," she whispered. "But they didn't listen. They said Tiago was brilliant. A voice for the future. That his sermons made the children feel loved." She looked straight at me. "But love was not what he sought." I swallowed. "He was trying to bring back his mother." "Yes," she said. "But he wasn't trying to speak with the dead. He wanted to bring her back in flesh. That is not resurrection, child. That is replacement. Something had to go in. Something had to come out." She reached into a drawer and pulled out a cloth-wrapped bundle. Inside was a photo, burnt at the corners, of a young priest, smiling at a group of orphans. Tiago. His eyes were bright, full of fire and charm. The same eyes I now saw in mirrors that shouldn't reflect him. They found her grave empty. "The coffin shattered from the inside," Sister Marcella said. "That was when the forest began to whisper. When animals turned on each other. When children woke screaming, all claiming to have the same dream." I leaned forward. "What was it?" She looked at me like I already knew the answer. "A man with no heart, offering his in exchange for yours." The room felt smaller. My own heart thudded louder in my chest. "He cut it out himself," she went on. "Not just to complete the ritual, but to tether himself. He couldn't finish the summoning that night. The fire disrupted it. His body was never found, because it was never fully there." "So what is it now?" I asked. "A spirit? A demon?" She shook her head. "Worse. A soul with purpose." That sentence landed like a stone in my stomach. "You must return the heart," she said. "Bury it under salt and scripture. Do not keep it near you. Do not sleep beside it. He's already inside you. Every dream, every whisper pulls him closer." "I've tried," I whispered. "I tried burning it. It came back. I've locked it in lead." It still beats. Sister Marcella closed her eyes, murmuring a prayer I couldn't understand. Her hand slid across the table until it gripped mine. Then you are too late. Her skin felt cold. You are no longer holding the heart, Silva, she said softly. It is holding you. The candle flickered violently. I turned to look at it, and in that brief second, I saw a shadow stretch across the far wall. It wasn't mine, and it wasn't hers. When I looked back, Sister Marcella's eyes had gone wide. Her lips parted, and a soft gasp escaped. Then, just as quickly, she fell silent. Dead silent. She slumped in her chair. I stood, shaking, calling her name. But she didn't respond. She was gone. And yet, the candle didn't go out. It flared brighter. In its flame, for a second, I saw his face. Smiling. Waiting. And I heard him say, "Now you understand. I never needed to chase you. You were always coming to me." I ran. But something followed. Something inside me. Something that now throbbed louder than my own heartbeat. It was his. And it was waking up. I woke up gasping for air. My shirt was drenched in sweat, clinging to my skin like wet bandages. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might rip through my chest. But the rhythm, God, the rhythm wasn't mine. I sat up, my hands trembling, and turned to look at the glass case sitting on my nightstand. The heart was still there. Red, raw, alive. It pulsed like a drumbeat, slow and deep. And I realized, with a sudden, sick twist in my gut, that the beat matched the thump in my own chest. Not mine. His. I couldn't stop staring at it. Every time it expanded and contracted, I felt it in my ribs. Like it had crawled inside me during the night and stitched itself to my bones. I should have taken it back. Burned it. Buried it. Called the department. But instead, I did something far worse. I listened. Because there was a sound coming from the glass now, a whisper. Faint. Rhythmic. My name, over and over again. Silva. 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 I gripped the edge of my bed and forced myself to stand. My legs were unsteady, like I'd been running in my sleep. I stumbled to the mirror above the dresser, hoping to snap myself out of this. But what stared back wasn't just me. My eyes were bleeding. 2 thin lines of red traced down my cheeks like tears. I touched my face, stunned, but felt no pain. That's when I heard him. "You're opening up, Silva." Just like I did. His voice didn't come from the mirror. It came from inside me. From the hollow place just behind my lungs, where breath and fear fight to survive. I turned to the heart. It pulsed faster now. "No," I said aloud, trying to be brave, to sound angry. "You don't get to use me." He laughed, low and steady. It wasn't a sound that came from lips. It came from roots. "You already let me in. Every dream, every breath, you kept the door open. And now we're one rhythm." I backed away from the nightstand, my hands shaking. I picked up my phone to record, to prove I wasn't losing my mind. But the screen flickered, then died. A spiderweb of cracks spread across the display, and it buzzed once, just once, then went cold. The air in my room changed. Heavier. Wet. It smelled like soil after rain, but darker. More like grave dirt. I couldn't stay there. I grabbed my coat and ran outside barefoot. The cold concrete of the street stung, but it felt real. Clean. The sky was just beginning to brighten. Early morning haze hanging low, like the town didn't want to wake up yet. And neither did I. I made my way to the police station. I didn't sign in. I didn't speak. I went straight to the evidence room, locked the door behind me, and unzipped the duffel bag I'd stashed the heart in before. Empty. No blood. No glass. No heart. But when I looked down at my chest, I saw the faint glow beneath my ribs, like a lantern trapped under skin. And the whisper came again, closer this time. "You carry me now. Let's finish what we started." I fell to the ground, curled into myself like a dying thing. Not because I was afraid of him, but because some twisted part of me didn't want him to leave. Not anymore. And that terrified me the most. I couldn't sleep again. The heart pulsed louder than the storm outside. Thunder rolled across the sky like something heavy dragging its nails across the clouds. The wind scratched at my windows, but I didn't flinch. I was staring at the heart. It sat in its glass case on my kitchen table. I'd tried hiding it. I'd tried locking it in the evidence locker. I even drove it 10 miles out of town and buried it in a construction site. But every time I came home, it was waiting. Always in the same spot. Always beating, slow and steady. Tonight, though, it pulsed faster. Louder. I knew what it wanted. The dreams were changing. No longer was I walking through water. Now I was kneeling in a circle of ash, with Tiago behind me, whispering in a language I didn't understand. His voice made my bones ache. He spoke like a lullaby that wanted to make you sleep forever. I needed answers. That's why I drove through the storm to my mother's house, the one I hadn't stepped into in years. She was out of town, some church pilgrimage with her prayer group, and I still had the key. The moment I stepped inside, I felt it. That old heaviness. The kind that only lives in homes filled with memories no one wants to revisit. I went straight to the attic. It was dusty, filled with old furniture, boxes of books, and one small chest I hadn't seen in over a decade. It had my name on it. Well, our name. Mine and Mateo's. My twin brother. I sat cross-legged and opened the chest. Inside were drawings we'd made as kids. Notes we passed each other in class. And beneath them all, an old, cracked leather notebook I didn't recognize. I flipped it open. The pages were filled with scribbled symbols, inked in what looked like rust or blood. My fingers trembled. I didn't remember this. Did Mateo draw these? Or did he find them? I turned another page and stopped breathing. There it was. The exact same sigil I'd found carved into the victim's skin in the forest. The one I'd seen burned into the seminary floor. And next to it, written in shaky handwriting, "The heart is the doorway. He must be whole to return." I read it over and over again. Then flipped the page. More drawings. A ritual circle. A list of offerings, blood, fire, a name. And on the last page, barely legible. He used me. I saw his true form. He wears a man's skin but speaks with flame. Don't sleep near the heart. He comes through the dream first. Then the bones. I couldn't breathe. My brother knew. He'd seen Tiago. Or something like him. And now, I was walking the same path. I shut the book, heart pounding. My vision blurred, but I wasn't crying. It felt like the air was pressing down on me. On instinct, I opened the attic window. Cold rain hit my face. Down below, on the street, a man stood still under a flickering lamppost. He wasn't holding an umbrella. He didn't flinch at the storm. Just stared up. At me. Even in the dark, I could see his eyes. Too black. Too wide. Tiago. I dropped the notebook and slammed the window shut. When I turned around, the heart was there. On the attic floor. Still inside the glass case. Still beating. But now it beat in sync with mine. Bottomp. 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 And somewhere deep inside, I felt something shift. A door creaked open, not in the attic, but inside me. I whispered without meaning to, my lips moving on their own. He's almost whole. And I knew then. This wasn't just about a cursed object. This was a ritual still unfolding. And I was part of it. Maybe I always had been. Maybe I was never meant to survive it. I woke up with dirt under my fingernails. Not a little, but caked so deep it was pressed into the skin. My palms were scraped, red and raw like I'd been crawling. There were twigs tangled in my hair and a torn edge on the hem of my shirt. My shoes were wet, and when I stood up from the couch, my socks squished. I checked the time. 3:47 a.m. I had gone to bed just after midnight, right after locking the glass case with the demon's heart inside. I remembered drinking tea. I remembered closing my eyes. But everything between then and now was a thick, empty fog. My apartment smelled like earth, like the scent that rises after heavy rain. But it hadn't rained in days. I walked to the case. The heart inside was beating faster. Not a gentle thump anymore, but a desperate, violent pulse. Each beat made the glass rattle slightly like it wanted out. I backed away. Something inside me had started to feel wrong. Not pain exactly, more like a dull, warm echo beneath my ribs, as if my own heart was trying to match its rhythm to the thing in the glass. I showered for an hour, trying to shake off the filth, the shame, the fear. But when I closed my eyes under the hot stream, I saw him again. Tiago. He stood behind my eyelids, cloaked in shadow, whispering in a language I didn't understand, but somehow knew was ancient. His hand reached toward me in the dream, not to harm, but to claim. Like I was his. And worse, a part of me wanted to go to him. At work, everything got stranger. When I walked into the evidence room, the security guard went pale. He dropped his coffee on the floor and stepped back like I was on fire. "You were here last night," he said, wide-eyed. "What?" 1 a.m. "You didn't sign in, but you were here." Staring at the freezer. "You said something in Latin or some devil's tongue. I thought it was a joke. But you just kept talking. Like in a trance. I hadn't been there. At least, I didn't remember being there." I checked the security footage. There I was, standing perfectly still in front of the cold storage room, lips moving, eyes wide open. But my pupils, they were pure black. No whites. Just dark orbs reflecting nothing. I blinked at the screen, my mouth going dry. That wasn't me. That couldn't be me. I went home early. The sun outside felt like it didn't want to touch me. Shadows stuck to my skin longer than they should. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at my hands. My fingers had changed. The veins under my skin looked darker, more pronounced. Not blue, but nearly black. Like something old and rotten was trying to push its way out. That night, I placed the glass case in the bathtub and filled it with holy water from the church. I didn't believe in that sort of thing, not really, but I was past the point of pride. The water hissed, boiled, turned dark. The glass cracked. And the heart, it kept beating. Faster now. Hungrier. I screamed. I punched the bathroom mirror. The shards fell around me, but I didn't feel pain. Not until I saw the reflection, dozens of me in broken glass. All of them smiling. Except me. The next morning, I woke up in the woods. No shoes. Mud on my face. A small animal, something skinned, lay beside me, still warm. And the heart, it was no longer in the case. It was inside me. I could feel it. Pulsing. Breathing. Listening. And I knew then, I wasn't alone in my body anymore. Tiago wasn't waiting for my permission. He was already moving in. And I didn't know how to make him stop. Or if I even wanted to. The forest didn't feel like a place anymore. It felt like something watching me. Every step I took, the ground gave a soft moan beneath my boots, damp and uneven. The whispering trees leaned in close, their bark like twisted faces judging me. My flashlight flickered again. Cheap batteries. Or something worse. I was starting to feel like everything around me was draining the life out of anything that tried to bring light. I kept walking. The seminary ruins stood like black bones in the fog, half swallowed by vines. The fire had gutted the place years ago, but I could still smell the burnt wood and the faint trace of incense in the air. A cross hung crooked above what used to be the altar, its metal frame rusted and broken down the center, like something split it in half. I wasn't here for prayers. I was here for answers. The dreams had led me here. All week, I had seen flashes, Tiago standing in a chamber below ground, his hands covered in blood, a boy's voice calling my name. My brother's voice. The dreams weren't just dreams anymore. They were memories. Or warnings. I moved behind the altar and knelt, brushing aside the crumbled stone. My fingers hit something solid, wood, barely buried beneath the rubble. A trapdoor. My chest tightened. The moment I touched it, the heart in my apartment, no, the heart inside me, started beating harder. I could feel it through my ribs. I paused, hand shaking, and whispered, "What the hell am I doing?" But I didn't stop. I pulled the door open, and a wave of cold air rolled up like a deep sigh. Stone steps descended into blackness. I clicked on the flashlight again. This time it held. I went down. The walls were wet, carved with words I couldn't read, Latin maybe or something older. Symbols circled the ceiling like watching eyes. The deeper I went, the louder the heartbeat became, like a war drum inside my ears. Then I saw it. A chamber, circular and quiet, lit by hundreds of melted candles, long dead but still holding the shapes of old flames. Bones were arranged in rings along the walls. Skulls stared out with empty sockets, some cracked, some marked with carvings. And in the center, a stone pillar. Names were etched into its surface. Each one neat, clean, deliberate. I leaned in. My fingers traced over them. Rafael Costa. Lucia Moret. Felipe Ramos. One name made my breath stop. Mateo Reyes. I fell to my knees. My brother's name. My twin. The boy who vanished 17 years ago. He had never run away. He had never been taken by a stranger. He had been given to the chamber. To Tiago. I don't know how long I sat there. My body was numb, but my mind was burning. Tiago had been doing this for decades. Taking people. Using them. Feeding the ritual. The heart wasn't just a relic. It was a tether, a lock, a beating door. He was never trying to just return. He wanted to be reborn. Through me. The chamber pulsed with heat all of a sudden. The air shimmered. I heard footsteps above, soft, slow, deliberate. Someone else was here. I stood quickly and turned off the flashlight. Darkness wrapped around me like a shroud, but I didn't breathe. Not yet. The sound grew louder down the steps. 1 step. 2. 3. Then it stopped. A voice, low and smooth like velvet soaked in blood, whispered from the shadows above. "You found the names. You always were a curious one, Silva." Tiago. My heart beat once, hard, and I realized it wasn't only mine anymore. I gripped the flashlight tighter, held my breath, and backed into the dark corner of the chamber. My mind raced for a plan. I didn't have one. I had fear. I had rage. I had the names. But that had to be enough. Because I had a feeling I wasn't getting out the same way I came in. I stopped sleeping. Or maybe I was just stuck between being awake and asleep, somewhere in the thin, poisonous layer that separates both. Every time I closed my eyes, I fell into that dark place. It wasn't a dream anymore. It was a trap. I could smell the rot in the air. I could feel the dirt under my nails. I could hear him breathing before he even spoke. Tonight, it was colder than usual. The water that usually pooled at my feet had frozen into a black glass. The trees were gone. No whispers. No shadows. Just silence so heavy it made my ears ring. And then he appeared. Tiago stepped forward from nothingness. No footsteps. No echo. Just a smooth glide like smoke in the shape of a man. His skin was pale now, but underneath it, I saw veins glowing like fire through ice. His eyes, God help me, were not eyes. They were holes. Empty, endless holes that looked straight into my soul. You brought it closer to me, Silva, he said softly, like a priest at confession. Thank you. His voice curled around me like a vine. It didn't sound evil. It sounded warm, like something that had been waiting a long time to be loved again. I tried to speak, but found my throat locked tight. My heart thumped hard in my chest, once, then again. But it wasn't my heartbeat. It was his. It's tiring, I know, he said, stepping closer. Carrying a heart that doesn't belong to you. Feeling it beat when it should be silent. Feeling me when you try to feel yourself. I managed to whisper, why me? Tiago tilted his head. His black hole eyes softened. Because you were hollow. I only filled the space. He walked a slow circle around me. I could feel his presence brushing against my skin like warm wind. I gave my heart to the darkness to bring someone back. My mother. She came. But something else came too. Something ancient. Something that followed me out. Now I can't die. I can only return. Through you. I turned to face him. I'm not helping you. I'll burn it. I'll bury it. You've tried, he said gently. And yet, here it is. He reached into the air and pulled the glass case from nowhere. It hovered between us, fogged from the inside. The heart beat once, then twice, then faster, like it knew I was there. You hold the key to my resurrection, Silva. But I will give you a choice. My lips parted before I could stop them. What choice? Give me the heart, and I'll leave you. I'll take everything, the dreams, the voice, the rot inside your soul, and I'll vanish. You'll wake up and think it was all madness. A bad case. A strange week. Nothing more. And if I don't? He smiled. Not cruelly. Not kindly either. Just knowingly. Then you'll belong to me. Fully. No more halfway. No more pretending your skin is your own. I'll walk in your body. I'll breathe with your lungs. And the next heart I take will be from someone you love. I wanted to scream, to run, to wake up. But I was stuck, frozen in this dream or vision or afterlife. And deep down, I knew the worst part wasn't what he said. It was what I felt. Part of me wanted it. Part of me wanted to stop being afraid. To stop running. To let go. To just give in. Because there was something warm in the darkness. Something sweet and familiar. It reminded me of how it felt when my brother was still alive. When I wasn't broken. Tiago stepped closer. His hand touched my chest. All I need is your yes. Say it, and the pain stops. I closed my eyes. I thought of my brother's name carved into the wall. Of the heart that refused to die. Of the woman in the woods with her ribs broken open like a book. Of the nun's warning. Of the forest's whispers. And then I said nothing. Just breathed in. And waited for morning. Because I wasn't ready to surrender. Not yet. Not ever. But I had to lie still and pretend I might. To learn what he feared. To understand what he really wanted. The bargain was never about choice. It was about control. And I had one more night to steal it back. Before he took everything. I didn't sleep the night before. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't dare. The heart was pulsing louder now. Not like a heartbeat. No. More like a drum. A war drum. I had locked it in a box, sealed it in salt, buried it under bricks in my bathroom wall. But it still throbbed. Still whispered. Still breathed. And every time I blinked, Tiago stood closer in my mind. His eyes, not just black but endless. Like they reached into something deeper than death. I told myself I was doing this to end it. But I wasn't sure what ending meant anymore. By midnight, I had gathered the final items. Chalk, charcoal, the photo of my brother, the old book from his box, and a flask of holy water I stole from Sister Marcella's chapel. The whispers said the ritual must be done where it began. So I went back. The burned-out seminary looked like a rotted tooth in the forest's mouth. Trees leaned toward it like they wanted to listen in. Mist clung to the grass, and the wind didn't move at all. Not even the bugs dared breathe. I broke through the chapel's ruined floor, digging with bare hands until the dirt turned wet and sour. The earth welcomed me too easily, like it had opened before, like it remembered me. At the bottom, I found the chamber again, walls of bone dust and candle stumps. And in the center, the empty altar. It was waiting. I placed the heart on the slab. It beat wildly now like a trapped animal. I felt it in my chest, our rhythms matching, colliding, merging. My skin burned. My mouth tasted iron. My vision flickered between this world and the dream one. Tiago spoke without lips. "You've carried me so well, Silva. You are ready." I screamed at him, not with sound, but with everything I had left. I poured the holy water over the heart. It hissed like meat on fire. The symbols in the book, shaky and half-finished, were carved into the stone beneath me, and I began reciting. The Latin bled from my tongue. It wasn't mine. I was just the instrument. My eyes rolled back, and the room turned red, then blue, then nothing. But something went wrong. The heart didn't stop. It grew. Veins spilled over the altar like vines. They stretched toward me, slithering. One wrapped around my wrist, another coiled behind my neck. My body screamed to move, but I couldn't. I was rooted. Tiago appeared. Not in a dream. Not in my head. In front of me. He was beautiful in the way a burning church is beautiful, terrifying, wholly wrong. He touched my cheek, and I didn't flinch. I couldn't. I was already half his. "You thought this was about returning," he whispered. "But I only ever needed a doorway." I tried to fight back. I remembered my brother's laugh, his face, the forest that stole him. I remembered my camera, my lonely apartment, the cold walls of the evidence room. I remembered being human. I forced one final word from my lips. "No." And in that word, everything shattered. Light, cold and white, poured from the crack in the ceiling. The mist howled. The vines recoiled. The heart burst open in a spray of black fire and smoke. Tiago screamed, not in pain but in fury. The chamber collapsed. I was falling, rising, dying. And then silence. When I opened my eyes, I was home. In bed. Sunlight peeking through the curtains. Was it over? The heart was gone. My chest was still. My mind quiet. I breathed. Once. Twice. Then I saw it. In the mirror across the room. My reflection wasn't breathing. And it was smiling. Last line. I thought I was saving myself. But I was just opening the door.